Quite interestingly, though the title of this episode mentions a flaming Moe, it won't be for another 3 seasons and 1 episode that we get to actually see Moe on fire. And another 3 seasons and 5 episodes after that, we get to actually see Moe's on fire. I feel misled by the title of this episode. I want my money back. Hi, I'm Torin, and welcome to Torin Loves the Simpsons. Today we're looking at Season 3, Episode 10, Flaming Moe's, an episode where Homer teaches Moe to make a drink he accidentally invented, and that drink goes on to take Moe's Tavern from the verge of bankruptcy and turn it into a massive success overnight, a success that Moe completely excludes Homer from, until Homer reveals the recipe publicly and takes Moe and Moe's right back to square one. Let's dive on in. We're gonna start with the humor today, and this episode starts right off with a nice parody of sensationalist infotainment media with the Ion Springfield segment. This is the first time Ion Springfield appears on the show, and the contents of the segment are pretty unremarkable, but I appreciate the stylistic parody. Also, damn, remember jinxing? Is that a thing people still do? I'm not sure if the reason I haven't seen anyone get jinxed in like 20 years is because people don't do it anymore, or if it's just that it's more of a kid's game. But for whatever reason, in my mind, it feels like a very pre-internet culture kind of thing. Like kids playing at the park, or cities in the United States having public transit. Anyways, this episode's body has some decent laughs, but is mostly unremarkable. However, as usual, I appreciate the subtle reference to the hyper-merchandising to which the show was subject when Homer tells Moe that, if there were any justice, it'd be Homer's face on a bunch of crappy merchandise. This episode also has Huge Ass, one of the all-time greats among Moe prank calls, and an excellent screw the audience joke. I briefly considered naming it Certified S tier, but it's not quite there. But lastly in my joke highlights is Frank's exasperation in discovering the machine named the secret ingredient to be love. That gets a good laugh out of me. However, I don't love how much screen time the episode gives to Aerosmith. Especially because this appearance is very much in the, hey look, it's Aerosmith vein of celebrity cameos, rather than having any real significance. To recap the points I made in my review of Stark Raving Dad, because I think this episode made basically the exact same mistake, I generally don't like when an episode spends a significant length of time on a celebrity cameo when the substance of that cameo amounts to nothing more than standing in awe of the celebrity's presence. Contrast this with Ringo Starr's cameo in Brush with Greatness, where they still portrayed Marge as starstruck, but they made a plot point out of that starstruckedness and tied it in with the rest of the storyline. So what I'm saying here is I think this episode spends too much time on the Aerosmith appearance for what we get out of it. Because frankly, I don't think we're getting anything out of it but filler. The best I can say for it is that it kinda helps highlight how Moe is living the high life off of the invention he stole from Homer, but I think that's already pretty well established in the episode without the Aerosmith thing, and I just generally think the Aerosmith parts are boring, and maybe they could have done something interesting with that time. So basically, I think the episode is kinda strong up front, and it has a few really nice moments in the middle, but it mostly brings weak to moderate chuckles throughout. I'm giving the humor a B. Okay, so now for the plot. To be honest, I don't really think this plot does anything that interesting. I get that there are a lot of Cheers references, which all go over my head since I've never watched a single episode of Cheers in my life. But the storyline and conflict feel very vanilla to me, very generic and uninspired and lacking in emotional weight. Homer gets screwed, but his turmoil gets played for laughs rather than for sympathy, and I'm not sure that's the right move here. Or maybe it is the right move, and there just isn't a whole lot of storyline to latch onto. I'm not quite sure. And as mentioned in humor, I think the Aerosmith feature fails to add anything compelling. And that's all disappointing because it turns out the story was probably inspired by a very real conflict between Matt Groening and Sam Simon. Honestly, I found reading into all that more interesting than the plot. I'll link the article I read in the description of this video. Unfortunately, it mentions a podcast appearance where Sam Simon apparently said this episode may be about, or at least inspired by, his feelings of resentment over his contributions to the show being minimized, with the article's author interpreting the word may to be polite weasel wording. But if the podcast episode in question is still on the internet anywhere, I've been unable to find it. The link included in the article still leads to a web domain, but that web domain appears to be owned by somebody completely different now. The only page on a different website where I could find any mention of the podcast episode was unable to find the audio file when I tried to listen. So if anyone can point me to a mirror or other copy of that podcast episode, I would greatly appreciate it. Unfortunately for this episode, my interest in the backstory behind the episode's production does not translate to interest in the plot of the episode, and I'm giving it a C+. And now for the final rating. I gave the episode a B for humor and a C+ for plot, and yeah, B- overall sounds about right. I'm actually pretty surprised I'm rating this episode so low. I always thought I liked the episode more, and I think it's generally very well regarded, but I'm just not seeing a whole lot to love about it when I really look. Thanks for watching. Are you angered at my hot take that this isn't a top tier episode? Did I get this one right? Or am I being too generous and this episode is actually trash? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed my video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Up next, we have Burns Verkaufen der Kraftwerk, so I will see you in that video.